Hi.
Hi.
Hi, we're on Zoom today
Yep.
and we have a very contentious topic.
Scary one
on-
eh.
So there's a foreign SME employer who interviewed 18 candidates, I think, and he chose to highlight the stuff that 7 of them said in the interview. And he described them as being not hungry for jobs. One asked it not to touch him on weekends, asked whether it's possible to work from home. Another applicant said office too far for her, she's staying in the east, but she's willing to consider if they can provide transport allowances. And then another applicant said her last round salary was 6K, was expecting this job to match. Only willing to take 5 to 10% pay cut and expects to be paid the same after clearing probation. Someone asked for junior staff and assistant. Another one asked if the company can give 21 days annual leave instead of 14 days. Someone asked for a higher salary, things like that. I think so. The crux and the gist of it is this local SME boss, he is disappointed, to say the least.
Yep.
I actually solicited comments from Instagram as well as from all my many WhatsApp group chats, friends and family. They all sounded out. So
You social butterfly, you.
I just have friends, Andy. You have no friends.
I have a few.
Okay, let's hear what you have to say first, and then let's just get into this.
Okay, Delane, right? His name is Delane. He sounds like, from the way he's writing, that he's quite logical and quite objective. And I don't think he's alone in this feeling that Singaporeans are not hungry enough. And I feel that 无风不起浪, wow, new Chinese word. You know what that means?
That's quite cheap, please.
Okay, 无风不起浪, that means there's no waves without wind.
The English version is no smoke without fire, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. There are two main things that people are fighting about here. First thing is are foreign workers taking away Singaporean jobs? The second is that local talents are not good enough, are not hungry, they are not willing to work. So I think these two are the main things that are causing a lot of fire. And the first thing, okay, the foreign workers taking, here's my opinion already. This is something that has been boiling for a long time.
They took our job! They took our job! They took your job!
It was a huge topic during elections, remember? Every opposition was talking about it. And then I feel like the MPs are also discussing about it during Parliament this time. They are taking action against foreign companies that are abusing, using foreign talents without using Singaporeans. My take is that Singaporeans and foreigners, right, the only difference is that if you have 2% of the same caliber and one is Singaporean and one is a foreign talent, then we should be hiring the Singaporean. But if the foreign talent is better and has a better value, then the company should be able to hire the foreign talent. Okay, that's what I feel the only advantage we get as Singaporean is that. So the second thing is where local talents are not hungry. I feel like, I don't dare to say, I feel that factually I think it's true. Okay, let me explain why. Because we are a rich country, right? And Singaporeans, we are quite comfortable. And with comfort comes you're not hungry. You are literally not hungry because you have food, you have shelter, everything. So unless this specific Singaporean is hungry for something more than just comfort, they are not going to be very hungry. They're not going to be willing to put in 16 hours to survive, That's just what it is to me. Okay, what about you?
So you actually think it's a Singaporean versus foreigner debate?
Partly. I feel it's partly that. I think there's a lot of negative emotions about this whole foreigners taking Singaporean jobs. And that is one thing that's fueling this whole confrontation.
At least the internet, right? So let me just update you on a little bit more. So I gave you all the facts, the pure facts of the case, right, about this guy, Delane, who said that this was his experience. And then it's quite scary how the internet has struck back. So haters on our favorite Hardware Zone, and in Hardware Zone terms, said he is just trying to swan Sinkies. Sinkies is the Hardware Zone term for Singaporeans, to justify hiring foreigners. One went as far as to say he sucks up to the PAP and is known to exaggerate his accomplishments. And then some other flaming crap.
I was reading quite a lot of internet comments. Okay, so the Facebook comments on this Delane's Facebook page, it's actually, some of them are actually his friends, and some of them are actually quite on his side and objective, mostly I would say actually. But when you put it up on Mothership's Instagram posts and Hardware Zone and forums and stuff, then it starts to get very oh my god, these people are really, really attacking him personally, which gets I feel quite scary.
I'm going to ignore a lot of the smear stuff because it's just the internet being the internet, and you and I could talk for hours about how these people need to get alive and blah blah blah, but it is what it is, right? And
I never say Jade say one, hey, attack her, not me.
I mean, I really, really think like, there are better ways to put things across, but it's quite brutal. So someone actually put his address and stuff like that. So it's quite threatening. I just
Yep.
think it's interesting because bringing up that a lot of the unhappiness is become like a foreigner versus Singaporean debate. I actually feel like there is another huge debate that's going on, at least in my group chats, which is an age thing, a generation thing?
Oh,
Like, I don't know if that's
interesting.
come up for
Yeah,
you.
could be.
My
Yeah,
friends in
could
their
be.
30s to 40s are generally in agreement with Delane. At this point in time, okay, let's even take out the pandemic for a minute, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the first or the second interview. And to have the gall and the audacity to ask things like that is to them, quite shocking, right? To them, it's like, really? You gonna ask things like, do I have to work on weekends? Huh? Like, can I get transport allowance? Because very far from my house. And these friends in their 30s and 40s, they are actually like, for them, they are just thankful to have a job. Some of them have taken pay cuts. Some of them have had their subordinates taken from them, either transferred to another division or let go. But they actually see it as, my boss is trying to save as many jobs as possible. Right? So it's a very different perspective, I feel, from a 30 to 40 something perspective compared to like a teenager 20 something perspective. So I've heard that perspective as well. So my younger friends, they said things like, honestly, an interview should be a two-way street. If I'm being interviewed, right, then I should just stay up front, like just ask the questions that I want to ask up front, which is like questions that would ensure whether I'm happy in my job or not. So let's say I stay very far from the office. If I know I have a transport allowance and I can use that to either pay for, I don't know, a cab or like a Grab or like a car, then I'll be very happy going to work. But if I'm going to travel from one end of the island to the other, then I'm going to be very unhappy. So the younger people feel like it's a very normal thing to ask. It's okay to like just check. Whereas the older people feel it's very entitled and it's very, they were like, a few of them were quite appalled. They actually said, hey, last time when we negotiated, we negotiate on pay. Now it's like you want to know how much medical benefits you get. Someone went as far as to say, okay, so an older friend who is also a local SME owner went as far as to say, the more medical benefits I give, which is like you can claim every MC, it's like giving myself a knife or a noose, it's like I give you more chance to take MC, then you take more MC law for free on my account now. And then a few civil servants where they cannot claim the MC. I mean, this is not very responsible in these times now, but previously outside of the pandemic, they would like, if they felt like they were feeling a little bit under the weather, they would still go to work because to them it's like, then I go to the doctor, I take time off, I still got to like pay for my MC. It would deter them from like taking a day off. Whereas, interestingly, another friend who is, she's like 30 years old, so not really on either side. She said, I literally have a colleague who will time her MC so that she takes it on the day when she has a lot of work. Anyway, company pay for the MC.
Wow.
So it's, yeah.
It happens, it happens. Okay.
I think we're bringing up two different things. One is like a local versus foreigner debate, and one is like a generation gap. Even though they are like probably just 10 years apart, but it's quite different.
Yeah, that's one generation. Okay, you basically talked about the older generation, right? So you have friends that are younger.
I have a friend, she works for an MNC, right? And she also said for people our age now, it's very important to know the sort of quality of life. So when they find a job, it's like, okay, even if the pay is very high, I want to know, like, am I learning things? Is my quality of life going to be good? And then secondly is like, will I be able to have work-life balance? I think for the younger people, work-life balance is extremely important. Whereas for like people in their 30s and 40s, it's like, we just graduated school, just chong and you just do what your boss tells you and you just suck it up and roll with it. For my younger friend, she's like, but I want to work smart. And then that's the other thing that was brought up. So Delane, the SME owner who started this whole furor, he actually said like people now just want to work smart. They're not willing to work hard. And my younger friend actually agreed. She said her point for them is, I want to work as efficiently as possible, get out of work on time, make sure I have my weekends. And to them, work-life balance is very, very important. If I'm going to take a job where my boss expects me to be responsive on weekends, then maybe I don't want the job and it's a bad fit. Although I reminded her that not all SMEs have money for HR.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, to be fair, I'm looking at all the, like, basically he listed like 7 people, right? So like the 7, right? I think it's almost all like a case by case basis. Some is like decent questions to ask, and some was like, like this kind of question is like you ask your mother, right? Or you ask your boss. So like I feel like there is a spectrum lah. So I wouldn't lump them all together. In Delane's defense, he's just saying how he feels and he's listing the information out lah. And he feels like he's quite experienced in posting because he left out all the important details and he looks like he's like a semi-influencer lah, I have to say. A lot of people are arguing on the extremes, right? So there are the bosses who are really trying to exploit people, right? Trying to squeeze them, like the very old school thinking of like every hour I'll squeeze out of you, I will squeeze out of you. So, and then like a pandemic, so I can pay you less. So these people, they do exist, but I would say they are a minority. And then on the other side are the young workers and Singaporean workers that are really lack of perspective. Like they can really ask really stupid questions and they think that like it's normal. And they really don't understand what working is because they really don't have the working experience and they really are a tad too comfortable, if you ask me. So I would say like if we remove the people from these two extremes, right, and we look at the majority of the people, I think the issue here is the issue of value, right? So it all has to make sense, right? Everything else, like if you ask for a lot of things, that means basically to get you, I need to pay for more. For me, like when I look at a business owner, they are going to look for value regardless. If it becomes like they can't sustain because the value being asked is too high for them to sustain, it doesn't really matter what kind of laws or what kind of thing the government forced them to do. They will find another way because they're not going to do a business at a loss, right? So they are going to hire overseas, as in like move their whole operation overseas, or they are going to try and hire as many people digitally as possible so they don't have to go through the local laws. So in the end, it's quite a lose-lose. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ask. I think a lot of the questions that they ask are fair because you are entitled to find the job that are suitable for you. But like then you just let them go and try. Like if they really can find a job, then maybe the problem is with the employer. But if they really try for like 10 interviews, then they will realize that, oh, like my expectations are not realistic. Then they will lower their expectations. So the market will do its thing, I feel. What do you think?
I think the gap between employer expectations and honestly some employee perception of their own value is just very wide. There is a vast difference between SMEs and MNCs. Say that if you are pitching yourself and you are, because okay, the other thing that my younger friend, actually both groups, the older friends and my younger friends mentioned is that maybe Google and Amazon and Facebook like small market. My point is, if you are expecting that, then I would say then don't apply to an SME, right? Because as an SME owner myself, I know even when you say things like, oh, that's why HR is so important. I was like, yes, of course it's important. Who wouldn't want to have a proper HR? But as a small business, can you afford it?
Like if you are really like we're talking about small company, even like I think like even like below 10 people, below 5 people, 3-man team, 4-man team, it's like you're gonna spend one person doing the HR. It feels like it's highly unlikely lah. Okay, let's talk personal experience now. Because you run your own company, I think you have how many headcounts do you have?
The highest I had was 4, and I did not have money for an HR person, like a dedicated HR person. It's just not realistic. And you're right, for a company below 10 people, I don't know how big Delane's company is, but he just said SME. So SME can range from like 10 to like 200 or something. But for the smaller side of the SME or the S,
smaller side of the S, nice, ding ding. Must always have some dirty thing every episode. Okay.
And I can always count on you to provide the dirty side of every episode.
Ding ding.
But anyway, for really small businesses, as the boss, you end up doing a lot of things yourself, and it may not be right to expect your employees to do that too, but that is what it's like working in a small company. So the upside is you learn a lot of things because you
get to do a lot of things that's above your pay grade because the company is small.
The part that comes with it is you just end up doing a lot more things. Or even though you learn a lot more things, you end up doing a lot more things.
Yeah.
So no, we
and it's less organized lah.
So that is my personal experience. The foreigner-Singaporean debate. I think Singapore has tried to find the right balance. There will never be a perfect balance, but you have SME owners always complaining, all these quota rules, is killing my business.
Yeah.
But the Singaporeans are still like, why are people still hiring foreigners? I think it's time to really like look inside, honestly, on both sides. Really, really on both sides to think about like whether the gap between employer expectations and employee perceived value is like really, really great. So I'll tell you that if you perceive your value as very high, then don't apply to an SME because the SME and MNC culture is really very different. It sounds very simplistic, but I think that to round up, I would say that it's a problem with expression and communication.
Yeah, I have to agree there. Yeah.
So maybe the person who is asking for an assistant, there are different ways to ask it, right? You could ask like, wow, so much work ah. So got assistant to help me? So that's one way of asking. A more savvy way is you could always say, will the company be looking to expand the team? Then you have a sort of gauge. If the boss says no, then you know that okay, you are really going to do all this work. Then it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to take the job without sounding entitled. If you're the sort who refuses to work weekends and you feel like, you know, from Friday, like say 7 p.m. to Monday 8 a.m., don't touch me, then maybe a question to ask is, what is the company culture like? You know, how is like, especially on weekends, like what is the sort of responsiveness you're looking at? I think one thing that I feel is quite obvious is to ask, what is your preferred mode of communication? Ask the boss, WhatsApp or email. Because I can tell you, for a person, anyone who says WhatsApp, if you're a person who values your like, I want to do this in my own time, I don't want my weekends to be touched, some alarm bell should go off. I have actually instructed them. I know it drives some clients crazy, but I've instructed some of my staff to insist that we only do email communications.
Oh, really?
Because sometimes they get very frustrated and then they'll text me. There have to be boundaries set, especially in this time of COVID. Clients take it for granted. If you give them, like, if I like tell them, okay, this is, you can WhatsApp this person, right? They will just keep WhatsApp in this person, and two things come out of it. It's very messy, and things are sort of in black and white, but it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Second is, expect this person to be responsive now.
I feel this is quite a valid point for employers also. Like, we almost don't have any boundaries when it comes to work. You realize, like, we don't think twice about texting someone about work on a Saturday or Sunday or like at night or anything. And this actually doesn't really happen in a lot of progressed countries. Like when they have like work life, they really have a better separation between like work and life. Like in Singapore, it's really, that line is very blurred, you know, like even for me, it's very hard. Like I am that person like WhatsApp all the time, 24/7. Now I have two numbers because I cannot deal with the crazy amount of people trying to get to me. I do agree in this point, we need to improve.
What could be improved to help to close the gap? Because I said the main problem I feel is this gap between employer expectations and employee perception of their own value is the communication style. I think maybe Delane, the people who applied to his jobs and the people at his interviews perhaps were just very direct, and he may have also perceived it as, wow, this person very entitled. The arguments and stuff like that, right? It stems from a very personal place. For example, for myself, right, I do sympathize quite a bit with Delane. For a small business, I do sympathize with him, like, wow, quite shag to find good people and to hire.
It is not easy.
As like a young person, fresh grad coming out, you're like, wow, everybody asking me to take pay cut, you know, like forgo my benefits just because times are bad. You're all trying to cheat me or what? So, you know, it really is also like, the place that you're coming from makes a lot of difference to how you feel about this issue as well. And I think that's why there's an age debate, there's a generation gap on this, and also a debate, a foreigner versus Singaporean debate, because maybe some of these people who are very unhappy that we are saboing Sinkies, right, are maybe people who have lost out on jobs to foreigners and are very bitter about it.
But I will also counter argue that like every generation have their own way of communicating, and it doesn't mean that one person has to accommodate to the other, other than the fact that one is an employer, one is an employee. But I think the employer also has a part to understand that, like, don't take it personally. If they ask something and they are not nice about it, but maybe they are just really asking, and it's really norm and okay socially for them as like in their generation. So if you're like, hey, very offended, then maybe there's also something wrong with you, because like they're just asking a question. They can't demand anything in their place anyway. So if you don't like what they are asking, or I like you don't like the terms that they are requesting for, you can always say no. I went back to think about myself when I was first starting out also, and how I was when I was looking for jobs. And then I remembered an example that I felt was maybe I did something right at that point, which is actually there was a production house that was doing projects that I really liked, but they just never looked for me. And then I really wanted to work with them. And at that time, I was already taking roles that were heavy roles, heavier roles or lead roles. And then, but I actually bumped into the producer, and I actually told her that like, I really, really like the things that you are doing. I have really loved the chance to work with you all. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the role size. I just want to work with you all. If you like working with me, then maybe we can work on more things in the future. I told them that. And that was exactly what they did. And then eventually we end up having a pretty good working relationship, and I ended up with quite a lot of heavy and lead roles. But what I'm trying to say here is that maybe one of the problem here is that when you go into asking for a job, right, you kind of have to give value before you ask for value. right? So there was one of the applicant that asked for like, oh, my probation period cannot take away so my pay. I'm really not a big fan of that. That's why it's called probation, right? If you look for a company and you're keen and you're passionate about it, then you should go in and say like, never mind, I take whatever little amount I can. But if you like what I do, then you compensate me properly. I'd rather say like, okay, I'm going to come in and you can pay me 50% for the probation. But if you really like it, I would like a 20% top up of the pay that you're offering me. The boss will also feel a lot more comfortable because they feel like you're not here trying to take advantage of me, but you are seeing the value of the company. You're trying to fight for the company at the same time, take care of yourself. I feel like if we can see that, right, as the common ground, that could be a better solution in the long run.
I definitely agree with that lah. Okay, but I'm just saying that I think that's the main point lah. Because what you're saying is if you believe so much in your value, then you would work at whatever and you know that people would see that value. I mean, I have also friends who worked in SMEs. They work for maybe a pay that they're okay with, and over the years, like their bosses kept increasing their pay. And I have a friend who wanted to leave many times, like genuinely wanted to leave. And every time she wanted to leave, her boss increased her pay so much that she couldn't. And because she had made herself
Yeah, exactly.
herself so invincible and so valuable to the company that he couldn't do without her. So I think both Andy and I have given our views on solutions. And let us know what you think about is this just an excuse for business owners to hire more foreigners? And also, do you think this is a generation gap and what we can do about it? I mean, reading some comments, like I actually solicited comments on Instagram and people are like, that's a very entitled employer. Someone actually said that.
Yeah, quite a lot actually.
Yeah, we should find a common ground. Please let us know, hopefully this will help move the situation and move the thinking along so that we can try to close up that gap.
Okay, wow, nice pep talk. Thank you. Thank you, Jade. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, bye.